Some people need to mask not having autism.
Hi, I'm Rebecca, late diagnosed autistic, level 1 autism, found out this past August. It's been less than a year. So, obviously, as a late diagnosed woman, I have hit some sort of, well, had hit some sort of stage of severe autistic burnout where I could no longer function with all the masking. And so, in the process of unmasking and learning to make room for my autism to exist, not just alone in a room with myself, but in my relationships with my loved ones, if there's one thing I've learned, if there's one main point that I have learned, I'm so sorry, not trying to stress anyone out, genuinely, everybody who is not autistic hates at least some autistic traits. That's 98 or 99% of the population. Yes, there are millions of us globally. We make up 1 to 2% of people. So if you're autistic and you know 100 people, 99 of them are not going to like you based on the way you act. Or at the very least, if they like you, they will tolerate things you do that they don't like. And I've been struggling with the shame of this and truly accepting, my autism and accepting that, like, oh, I have all these behaviors and traits and they're not wrong, but people still hate them and expect me to change them. It's been a struggle. And what's really helped me a lot? I'm not saying this is the perfectly Christian way to go about this. I'm not saying I'm your role model and you need to copy me. But what I've been doing, is embracing the neurotypical bigotry, the reverse ableism. Because I think as autistic people, we can probably agree that neurotypical culture is disgusting in a lot of ways. It's immoral, it's flaky, it's backhanded, it's fake. I hate neurotypical culture. Why use words by their definitions to say what you mean when you could say less words that you don't mean to imply some secret message and then get mad when autistic people don't understand your secret message, right? Everyone agrees that honesty is good, so obviously we're gonna hate autistic people for being actually honest and condemn them and tell them, no, not like that though. Neurotypical culture says, we are the majority, therefore we are morally superior. Therefore, the way we communicate is inherently better than the way autistic people communicate. Neurotypical culture says your disability is your problem. You're the minority, therefore you are inherently in the wrong, and you need to stop acting autistic. Unless, of course, you actually look R-word enough for the neurotypicals to, instead of condemning you for acting autistic, then infantilize you for acting autistic. Oh, bless his heart. He's using communication cards. Oh, bless his heart. He's nonverbal. He's trying so hard. Meanwhile, that person they're infantilizing is a fully grown adult, can get on a keyboard and type a paragraph to rip them to shreds. And their ableism. Literally just a normal person, a normal adult with sensory processing issues. Neurotypical culture is a reiteration of a tale as old as time. We are the majority and you are the minority, therefore we are better than you, we are morally above you, we have more power than you, and we deserve more power than you, and it's your job to fit into a world that wasn't made for you and that actively hates you. That's neurotypical culture, baby. You know what autistic culture is? Honesty. Actual real honesty, actual real communication that actually makes sense based on the definitions of words. Autistic culture is learning and researching things thoroughly and in depth so we actually know what we're talking about, and then we share that with others. And people are like, oh, learning things, me no likey use my brain. Autistic culture acknowledges that the way that autistic people communicate is no better or worse than the way neurotypical communicate, because neurotypical people, they communicate great with each other. Autistic people, we communicate great with each other. It's crossing the bridge where there become communication problems. So clearly, it's not inherently bad to communicate in an autistic way. We just make up a minority. If we were the majority, we'd be doing exactly what this guy did in his video. Can you please mask your non-autism a little bit? It's making me really uncomfortable the way you're making small talk. Autistic culture lets autistic people act like their authentic selves and says, you are good, you are worthy, there's nothing wrong with you. What's wrong is the world that discriminates against you and oppresses you. And neurotypical culture doesn't just uphold that oppressive system, but revels in it, rejoices in it, thrives in it, depends upon it to intimidate and bully autistic people into acting less autistic. And God, if it's your will, please remove this hatred from my heart in time in Jesus' name, because like I said, I'm not sure this is the most Christian approach, but I have become genuinely so bigoted towards neurotypical culture and so intolerant of neurotypical people trying to force their non autistic standards onto me as an autistic person. It makes them so uncomfortable and it feels so good because I've been made uncomfortable my entire life by even the closest loved ones in my life. Oh, you can't do that. You're not supposed to do this. And I always assumed that they had my best interest at heart. But all these social rules that they were teaching me, they actually weren't to my benefit. It was to my stress, my burden, all just so that they could feel comfortable. It's not even always like, yes, manners are about like showing respect, but so many of these neurotypical social rules aren't about showing respect. We're told that they are, but they're not because they don't respect us and our discomfort. It's simply about making neurotypical people comfortable so they don't have to think about the fact that they're in the presence of an autistic person. That's genuinely all it is most of the time. Like I said, there's manners, but that's usually all it is. And it feels genuinely so good to make the neurotypical loved ones in my life so deeply uncomfortable because, like I said, for my entire life, I've been made uncomfortable. I've been expected to put up with discomfort and the burden of trying to pretend to not be autistic, even though I didn't know that's what was going on. I've still been feeling the burden and the weight of it. And every time they're like, oh, relationship accommodations, but you can't act like that, Becca. You can't act autistic like that. That makes me uncomfortable. It's so good because I'm just like, oh, now you know how it feels a little bit to be autistic. Now imagine that all the time for almost 30 years. I'm not sorry for you. And if you want to be in my life, then you're going to have to put up with me being autistic and not just put up with it, but accept it, embrace it, and appreciate it. I've become so intolerant and bigoted against neurotypical BS, and it genuinely feels so good. So good.